But wait, there's more. If you guys saw my earlier video about the BeatStars AI program, this is version 2 because I just found out through the company called Beat Matchmaker, there's more to the story than we even saw. So initially, here's the history. Abe Batchon went on Curtis King's live stream and he interviewed with him. And the way they talked about Suno was very interesting. I said, why is this person acting like Suno is the worst thing to happen to the music industry? Something like when you have AI tools on your website. Like, that doesn't make any sense. And long story short, yesterday they released their creator-owned AI. So what we're going to do is read this entire page, and I'm going to just ask questions from the music producer community. Basic questions. Now, I would love to hear these answers. So it says, BeatStars AI, creator-owned AI starts here. It says, help build the fairest generative AI in the game with BeatStars AI. Opt in your music, keep full ownership, and it powers new creations. They called it the heist. So why would they position other companies as the heist as if this is not the heist? That's my first question. And why would you even bring up the word heist at all? Like, this is not video games. This is not Grand Theft Auto. Why are you trying to create a common enemy as all these other companies are just stealing from us? So we should group together and do it ourselves, right? So that's my first question. Then it says opt in my catalog. It doesn't say opt in songs. It doesn't say opt in tracks. It doesn't say opt in a couple things. It says opt in my catalog. So I assume, because I didn't click this button, that this means everything that you worked on and put onto this platform is eligible for this thing called a catalog. I would assume. Okay. So we're not going to watch the video because they play YouTube games. I don't have time for that. Okay, so it says, welcome to something better. We changed beat selling forever. Now our sites are on AI. We've spent 17 years proving that when creators own their work, everyone wins. And that's exactly why we're not willing to let creators get written out of what comes next. So according to this, it says 450 million paid to creators, 11 million tracks uploaded. So let's do some basic math. So if there's 11 million tracks, there's 450 million according to them divided by 11. This should give us the revenue per track uploaded. So you're saying that every track gives you $40. So are you guys selling your beats for $40? Let's go check the BeatStars top charts. Last time we did our research, the average price was $26. Let's see. Okay, so $40 is the top one here. $50. Well, it's not 50. It says 200 beats for 50. Oh, okay. This one says $27. This one says 22. It says buy one, get 4 free. So that's really 5 beats for $20. That's really $4 a beat. Okay. Then it says $35 right here. Ads for 30, 50. And then it says 15. And then it says 50. So I'm curious how they came to that $40 average. Just curious about that. Is everybody selling on BeatStars? How many users are on BeatStars? How many people are actually making a profit? That's the real question. How many people are making a profit? How many people sign up to BeatStars with the hopes of just selling beats only for it to be a dead marketplace for their experience? I'm not saying BeatStars is dead. I'm saying for that specific person, they don't get the results they want because they were sold the illusion of selling music, right? So then they sign up for the monthly subscription or however they sign up, thinking that they're going to sell music. Did they sell music? I want to hear in the comments below. Have you guys sold beats on BeatStars? All right, then it says 10 million creators worldwide. Okay, let's keep going. Then it says introducing BeatStars AI. Every other AI platform made, you take their word for it. BeatStars AI is built on 4 things you can actually hold us to. This is going to be hilarious because first of all, it says attribution. Okay, let me clear this up real quick. So how are you going to attribute this chord to anybody? Who owns this chord? According to BeatStars in their training model, who owns the A major 9th chord? Okay, now I'll play another chord. Let's see. Who owns this chord? The F major 13th chord. I'm curious how they're gonna, credit me for this chord progression that I'm making right now. Who owns that 9 chord? And then who owns this? Who owns the altered chord right here? And who owns this? Now, if I put all those chords together, who owns that entire chord progression? Do you own it? Does BeatStars own it? If I play it slowly, does it become, instead of chords, which are, not copyrightable? Okay, well, if I play it slowly, now it's a melody. So who owns that? Who owns me just splitting up a chord rhythmically? Now it's a melody. These are my basic questions. So attribution, fundamentally, who owns R&B? Okay, so let's read what they say. According to them, and I showed you guys how these AI scanners, I just proved to you guys in another video how there's major flaws in them. Okay, so it says attribution, your beats don't disappear into a black box. Beat DNA keeps your identity tied to what you help build. Most AI systems can't trace their outputs back to a source. What do you mean most? Let's ask Gemini. So we're literally going to copy and paste so you guys can see that I'm not creating any crazy like things. We're going to copy this. We're going to paste it in Gemini and say, is it even remotely possible for a machine learning to, what was the claim? I forgot that fast because it was so out there. Most AI systems can't trace their outputs back to the source. Okay. Is it even remotely possible for machine learning AI to trace its output back to the source? And then we'll give it context. This context is about an AI beat making machine that intakes our original music and outputs some music. I don't know. Okay, so let's see what Gemini has to say. Again, this is considered one of the top AIs in the world. It's about to give us an answer. And I'm not going to edit the video because I don't want you guys to think I tampered with the video. So I put it on pro mode so I could think a little bit more. So it's just taking a little bit time to think. Now in the other video, it said it's nearly impossible. I just want to see what it says now. But that is my main concern, is attribution. How can you say you're attributing stuff to anybody when you can't bring it back to just the basics of this chord? That's not going to go to BusyWorks Beats. All right, so it says here, your skepticism is absolutely justified. If we are talking about a standard monolithic generative neural network, the answer is essentially no. Meaning, standard models are genuine black boxes. Okay, here is why standard architecture can't trace its outputs. When you feed thousands of original beats into a standard model, it doesn't store snippets or stems of your audio. It dissolves the music into a massive web of mathematical weights and biases. The AI learns the statistical relationships between the notes, the rhythms, and the frequencies. By the time it outputs a new melody, the original source material is completely scrambled into the latent space. Tracing a generative hi-hat pattern back to your specific hi-hat stem is like trying to trace a specific drop of water back to the cloud it rained from. It says, however, yes, it is possible if the system is fundamentally architected for attribution from day one, since systems, like BeatStars AI, which is powered by their acquisition of Lemonade AI, bypass the black box problem using specific engineering strategies rather than magic neural network breakthroughs. They achieve this beat DNA tracking through a few likely methods, isolated micro models, the producer specific approach. So let's just say they do have a system, because this is giving us a different answer than before. So let's say they do have a system similar to Suno's, where you can go to Suno and train your own model based off of your own stuff. So let's say they have a system like this, which it can, let me show you guys something. So for those who don't know, like certain sites like Marika, now Suno, if you click here, you can create a custom model. Okay, and this works on top of the already existing Suno model. Okay, so you can create a custom model. We've done it. You basically upload like 48 songs in there, 24 to 48 songs. And when you generate music, it will, let me see if I can filter based on the model type. I don't think so. But when you generate the music, it will, let me see if I can find an example. Basically, when you generate, for example, if I just click my BusyWorks Beats model and then I put in like, I don't know, West Coast G-Funk, it will take pieces of my existing beat and put it into the generation. So let's do this in real time on Suno. Now, again, this is already using Suno's initial database of stuff. So it's not like only training on my music. It's also using everything else in Suno. So isn't that what BeatStars is trying to create? This pool of stuff. And then I'm just training my little portion if somebody chooses my model. Now, my problem is, let's say they take the same approach. Okay, somebody goes to BeatStars, for example, picks the BusyWorks Beats model, but that was also trained on everybody else's stuff. So who gets attributed to the everything elseness of it? That's my question, is who gets the true credit for all the underlying training? Because training, you need thousands and thousands of songs. You don't train off of a couple songs. And that's why the first message said, commit your catalog, opt in with your entire catalog, because they need thousands of songs to train on. You can't do this with a couple hundred songs, and they know how long it takes to make a song. So they said, okay, what if we just ask everybody, and see if they'll fall for it. Ask them for their stuff so we could train this huge model, and they think they own it, because where's the paperwork for owning this stuff? So for example, here's the G-Funk stuff based on beats that I've made. Again, it got the other instruments from the Suno training, and then on top of that, stylistically, like for example, for those who study LoRa's, for example, you could take a bass model and then add like a filter to it, and that's kind of what these are doing, but for audio. So it might use chords that I use. It might use a lead line that I've used before. Let me skip ahead. So this is taken from a song I know. Trying to think what song that was. But there's pieces of my song in here. I could hear it. There's certain melodic things that are from my song. So is that going to be the system? Well, then the question becomes, okay, if you attribute just that little small portion of the micro ecosystem, what about the entire other ecosystem? Who gets the credit? Again, does it go to the black box of attribution? Chances are. I mean, the answer seems to be very obvious. So that's always my huge thing, is like attribution with AI is a fantasy, y'all. Because ultimately you need a foundational thing to work off of, and AI training takes thousands and thousands of songs. You're not going to give BeatStars thousands of your songs. You probably don't have thousands of your songs. Okay, so that's, I can go on for days about that. Nextly, it says consent. It says your participation, I can't even speak. Your participation is a choice every time. A separate explicit opt-in, not buried in a terms update. BeatStars requires active opt-in to train our models. If you change, now it's funny they said our models. It doesn't say your models, it says train our models. So who owns this thing at the end of the day? You're giving your music to it. Who owns it? Didn't it just say we own this thing? Okay. If you change your mind, you could remove consent so that future training stops. It doesn't say past training. So here's the thing that we looked up earlier, actually, now that I recall. It wasn't this question about attribution. It was actually this question here. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to copy this over to Gemini, paste, and say, if, let's just put a scenario. If I remove my music from BeatStars training, can it remove my past catalog from their training? Now, the reason I'm asking this question is because when people read this, they may think, okay, I can opt out at any time. Therefore, in the future, you know, basically they think if they don't like their experience, they could just pull out at any time. Well, if the one common thing that most people don't know about AI training is once it trains, it's in there. And this stuff costs a lot of money to train, because what's called an epoch, one cycle of like looking at stuff, okay, that takes time. It takes a lot of computer power, and basically somebody's paying that bill, and you can't do it on a typical computer. Even a Mac Mini, it takes forever. Okay. I did a project with just 500 epochs one time, and it took so long. It took a ridiculous amount of time. Okay. For like a very small data set. So I can't imagine having hundreds and hundreds of thousands of songs. That's going to cost a lot of money to train. So you think these companies are going to spend money just for you to pull out and them not to benefit? That's, I just can't see that happening. So here's what Google has to say about the consent. It says, you caught the exact right phrase there, future training. That is a very deliberate legal and technical distinction. The short answer is no. If your catalog was already used to train a foundation model that is currently live, your musical data is almost certainly permanently baked into that specific version of the model. In other words, if you give BeatStars your catalog to train on, you cannot pull out of, there's no such thing as pulling out of the training once it's in there. So why would they word it like this, to where it's like, oh, in the future, if you plan to pull out in the future, but isn't the first button on here opt in with your entire catalog? So if you opt in with your entire catalog, how many more songs you're going to make in the future versus the songs you've already made, according to this basic logic, okay? So it says, the short answer is no. If your catalog was already used to train the foundational model that's currently live, your musical data is almost certainly permanently baked into that specific version of the model. Withdrawing consent now just stops them from putting your music into the next version. Here's the technical reality of why companies use this specific phrasing, the baked cake problem. We talked about this earlier, machine unlearning. In machine learning, pardon me, there's a massive, largely unsolved problem called machine unlearning. Once data is fed into a neural network and processed, it doesn't exist as a separate file on a hard drive anymore. It is converted into millions of mathematical weights and biases via what's called vectorization. Okay, they're giving a number to your thing. Okay, think of it like bouncing down a dense 100 track mix into a final stereo wave. If a client calls you a week later and asks you to completely remove the hi-hat from the master file, you can't just extract the hi-hats. The hi-hat is permanently glued to the frequencies of the snare, the synths, the vocals. Hence, another problem with this AI training is if you want to, output instruments, you have to train only instruments. You can't train entire beats because then you need to use what's called stem extraction. And we talked about in a different video the problem with training on stem extraction tools. You leave out so much harmonic richness of a sound. So long story short, that we have a whole video about AI music detectors, for example. So it says to remove it, you have to open the original session, mute the hi-hat track, and bounce a completely new master. AI companies face the same issue. To remove your catalog from an existing model, they would have to completely scrap the multi-million dollar model, again, because it costs money to train this stuff. Remove your files. It says remove your files from the raw data set and pay to train a brand new model from scratch. Like I said, do you really think these guys are going to be blowing through money just to train new models because people opted out? Or you think they're just going to get as many people as they can on the first model and then, milk that till it's dry, till they have to train a new model? Okay, so what future training stops? Oh, it says what future training stops actually means. Because they cannot surgically remove your data from the current model, the legal copy is designed to protect them. When you hit that opt-out button, here is what practically happens. Your data stays in version 1. The current AI model running on the site keeps working exactly as it did yesterday, with your data still influencing its outputs. You are excluded from version 2.0. When the company decides to update their AI and train a new model, whenever that is, from scratch 6 months from now, your data will be removed from the training pool for the future build, if they even train a future model, because it costs a lot of money. That means they have to make the money first before they just spend even more money on the next model. Now, we're going to go back to the micro model approach, because that's why I showed you guys Suno. So it says here, the one exception, if BeatStars trained a specific isolated micro model exclusively on your beats, only on your beats, okay? That's not how it happens, because to create a data set, you need thousands of songs. Okay, so if BeatStars trained a specific isolated micro model exclusively on your beats, meaning only your stuff, nobody else's stuff, like their producer specific models, which I'll show you guys what that is. If you go to BeatStars.com, if you click on where it says AI models, I was recruited for this at first and then I backed out because I just didn't like what was going on. So Kato has one, Mantra has one, Kavi has one, Lex Luger has one, DJ Payne has one. Now, basically when you sign up for this, they have an app that generates melodies for you, and you can create melodies in the style of different producers. Now notice this is only for a couple producers. This isn't for everybody on the website. So if this is a program that only has 5 producers highlighted, where does everybody else fit into this whole, thing where people are going to come to BeatStars and they pick the BusyWorks Beats model and they generate through BusyWorks Beats and he gets attributed? You really think they're going to have a drop down that has 2 million people inside the drop down so that users can generate in their style? Like, you guys really think that's going to happen? Okay, so what was my point? Okay, let's reread. If BeatStars, the micro model approach. So basically, to even create this technology, they had to have MJ from Lemonade, shout out to MJ and his partner from Lemonade, create an app called Lemonade. And basically, these are called seeds from Kato, Mantra, Kavi, Lex Luger, and DJ Payne 1. So these are micro models, essentially. You give them about 500 MIDI minimum. They machine train on it, do however many epochs on it, scans on it. Okay, they find the commonalities of the melody and then they put it into their software. But there's still a foundational data set underneath. Okay, my little 500 melodies is not going to create master melodies because it's not enough material. The machine needs lots and lots and lots of data. Okay, so even though these people have their specific, micro models, it's feeding from, I would assume, a bigger pool of stuff, a bigger pool of training. So isn't that how BeatStars is going to roll out the same, AI music generator? So in that case, how are we attributing Kato and Mantra and Kavi and Lex Luger and DJ Payne 1 when they're ultimately not, like, If they never played this chord, how did this chord end up in the music? Who added that chord? Was it a BusyWorks Beats chord that somehow got into their output? And how are we to ever track the outputs that people are generating on the website? There's no way to track that. So that is my issue with this. Then it says, yes, they can just hit delete on the specific model file, but if your catalog was tossed into a massive generalized pool with thousands of other producers to train a foundational system, your past data is already locked in, and that seems like what they're talking about. Okay, so they need to clear this up in their own marketing. It doesn't really make any much sense. Because look here, the key words: to train our modules. It doesn't say your module. It says to train our models, multiple. So if you're putting in your music to train their models, doesn't that mean that you're contributing to a bigger thing than just your specific thing? Then it says ownership, which is hilarious to me because you can't give ownership to somebody that you can't attribute with the outputs. But here we see it says you opt in your music, you don't sign it away. Participating doesn't transfer ownership, your beats stay yours. We're not worried about the beats and the copyrights of the beat. If we're worried about you vectorizing my beat into a series of numbers and weights for your AI model, that's what people are worried about, not the ownership of the beat that went into the machine. It says your copyright remains intact. Your catalog stays yours. That's not the concern. Opting in is a decision to contribute to a system, not surrender your place in it. But you're training a system on how to make beats like myself to ultimately do what? To create more competition against myself on a platform that has a marketplace that has a whole ad system, so that we come to the ad system and outbid each other because we're fighting against ourselves. Okay. So let's go to where it says compensation. It says if your catalog powers the future, you share in it. Where's the paperwork for this? Where's the equity? Where's the on paper? Hey, I have this much stock in BeatStars. That is hilarious. It says if your catalog powers the future, you share in it. Multiple earning pathways. It doesn't say which ones. Multiple earnings pathways. Real infrastructure behind them. It says participating creators can earn through AI export licensing. What does that even mean? Export licensing? Like if I had to guess what that is, because there's no clarity as to what that is, AI export licensing. So I would assume that somehow somebody can come to my page on BeatStars, create some kind of variation of my song and export it as a variation that I've never created. So am I attributed to that? Well, how do we know? Can they only do it from my page, or is there going to be a whole, BeatStars.com/AI that has just the AI generation tool where people could just type in R&B, make me an R&B beat from the 1990s? Well, okay, well, who owns this chord progression then? Like, who owns that chord progression? Like, if they're not going from my page, how do I know that I'm going to be attributed for this chord progression in this style? So that's my concern, is like, how's licensing work when you can't even attribute the outputs to anybody? Okay, that's my fundamental issue with all of this language. Then it says publishing participation, master participation, and enterprise partnerships. That just sounds like a bunch of fluffy wordage. Okay. Then it says, what will BeatStars AI power? Early areas of development powered by BeatStars AI include assisted arrangement building, transformation of existing uploaded audio, and generation of new ideas from content on the platform. So basically variation. You just said the same thing. And then you're going to have an AI music generator. It says right here, AI beat generation. So if you have an AI beat generation tool, isn't that creating competition against myself on the platform that I came to build my own business on? And even if they use my own likeness for this AI model, they say, what's the price going to be? If my prices are $50 and somebody comes to the website, generates an AI variation of my song, do they buy credits from BeatStars? Are they going to pay $30 for it? Are they going to undercut me? There's so many questions I have, because ultimately, if they create a centralized AI beat generation platform and page, and they go off of the, BeatStars.com/BusyWorksBeats. If they leave that page and go to an AI generation page, how did they know to attribute BusyWorks Beats any longer? Like, where's the attribution right there? Questions I have. Then it says remix and variation. So again, I would assume that people can take your beat, the one that you actually like, and if you opt it into the system, they can create a variation of it. Maybe the drums change, maybe the bass line changes, whatever it is, it changes, and you'll get credit for that. But does BeatStars also take a cut of this? Who also gets a cut of this transaction? That's what I'm curious about. Nextly says melody and chord tools. So like I said before, if they're training on all your beats and studying all your chord progressions, how do you own a chord progression? You don't. So if I play this chord right here, let me run that back. So if I play this chord, if I played it first, is BusyWorks Beats attributed this chord progression? Like, who owns that chord progression in the chord tool and in the melody tool? Like I said before, if I split the chords up, now it's a melody, but I'm playing the same chords. So if we all played the same Phrygian scale, who owns the Phrygian mode or scale? Like, these are basic questions that they need to answer. And that's my issue with this whole, like, let's all join together and build this tool, and I'm going to act like you're a part of it, but you're really not a part of it. And there's no real way to even attribute this. And we're going to basically act like we're working on your behalf, but you're just feeding the beast. And the worst part is that, again, there was a whole campaign by the CEO of BeatStars against Suno. Like, he was trying to, you guys can watch the Curtis King interview and decide for yourself how he was talking against Suno. It was very as if he had this alternative solution. How is this any different? Okay, then it says MIDI composition assistance. Again, who's going to be attributed to that? Now, just because they say it's ethical, how's it ethical if you're diluting your current, how do I explain this? If the problem on BeatStars is that people didn't want people using Suno because they called it cheating, it's not because it was AI music, it's because you're now increasing the supply. So if you create a tool now that does the same exact thing, which is increase the supply on the website, how does that help producers on the website stand out? Isn't your job of the marketplace to help people sell beats, or just get lost in the sauce so that people come into the website, use your AI generator, and not the actual producers who built up the AI generator? Crazy to me. Nextly says signature creator engines. What does that even mean? Who's going to be handpicked for this? Are we going to have, what is it called, nepotism, where it's only a couple people in the inner circle, or the same way they had Kavi, Mantra, Lex Luger, DJ Pain 1. So that, what are they going to do, an influencer model based thing for marketing? Like, use the BusyWorks Beats model, it's the same play all over again. Then it says here's how it works. The process is designed to be clear and simple. No smoke, mirrors, or gotchas. That's very hilarious. It says opt in music, beats, and stems from your BeatStars catalog in your account settings. Help train. Your catalog helps train an advanced rights attributed AI model built for and by producers. Who's the producer in this case? Talking about built by producers. You talking about the hard work of us putting the music into the machine? Is that the producers you're talking about? Because if I created an AI chord generator, if I can't generate my own 1,000 chords, why am I making a chord generator? Like, for example, I can make my own chords. So if I'm the one saying, hey guys, I have this chord generator, I'll say, I contributed the first 10,000. I need help making this bigger. Can you guys contribute? I'm not going, hey guys, I don't even know how to make chords, but you do. So I'm going to leverage you, build this whole system based off of your hard work, and then act like you're also an owner in here with no paperwork. That's actually crazy. Then it says power products. Your contributions stay connected through Beat DNA as new AI tools are released. What does that even mean? Like I said, guys, you guys got to go back to the video where I talked about how these AI music detectors are bull crap. Okay, you got to go watch that video, because this will explain a lot about this Beat DNA thing. Okay. Then it says get paid. As BeatStars AI creates value, participating creators share in the monetization framework. What does that even mean? That's so vague. Like, is there a pool of money that we all get paid? Do you pay per person? Do you pay per credit? How is that? And then they want you to opt in your catalog with these vague explanations of everything. Then it says watch the explainer. I'm not going to watch that because, again, they play YouTube games. It says, make it happen, how to opt in. We've made it ultra easy to turn on and just as easy to opt out if you ever change your mind. First of all, when you opt in and you give them your entire catalog, you're not opting out. So even Google Gemini just said that. Because when they say the words, our models, it doesn't sound like they're making a micro model. It sounds like they're adding your stuff to a bigger model. It says to train our models, plural. It does not say your model, singular. So therefore, chances are they're not making it very clear if it's a micro model or not. According to that language, I would assume that we're contributing to a bigger model, which means you can't undo that. There's no opt out. And then they got the AI M dash. Did AI make this page? It looks a lot like AI made this web page, which is very ironic. Then it says, okay. Go to account settings and it says find the module at the bottom on the profile tab. Then it says review program terms and it says click the checkbox. So they're guiding you through the process of putting your stuff in the BeatStars AI Creator Program. It says help build what's next. See how vague it is? Like you're just contributing your stuff to this cloud of stuff. And then when we make products, we'll let you know. We'll let you know how we credit you. We're not going to tell you how it actually works. It says help build what's next. Creators built the culture. You're darn right. BeatStars is building the infrastructure to help creators stay owners and participants in what comes next. Can't they do that themselves? Why do they need BeatStars? So yeah, that's all just marketing talk. What do you guys think in the comments below? I didn't know they had a whole sales page for this concept, but are you guys finding this a little fishy? Put a little fish emoji in the chat. If you guys are finding this helpful, put a little wrench emoji in the chat. So I'm just asking basic questions, like basic questions. Let's go back to Gemini because I did skip over the definitions for micro models. Just real quick. So micro model, it says isolated micro models. Instead of throwing every producer's music into one giant data soup, which it sounds like they're doing, they train isolated individual models on specific producers' catalogs. Do you guys really think they're going to do this? You need thousands of songs to do this. Okay, you can't just do it off of 200 songs. And then it says, which they market as collab club models. Again, there was a foundational thing underneath that we're leveraging. It's not just our 500 melodies that we contributed. It says if a user, because then the melodies would come out crappy because it wasn't enough data. It says if a user selects a specific producer's AI model to generate a melody, the system doesn't need to trace individual notes. It knows 100% of the statistical data driving that specific generation came from that one producer, making attribution and row split straightforward. But that's, again, based on a greater pool of stuff. That's my concern, is the greater pool of stuff. Then it says retrieval augmented generation RAG system. In this setup, the AI doesn't just hallucinate a beat from scratch. When prompted, it searches a vector database of the original MIDI or audio stems, retrieve the closest matches, and uses the AI to stitch or concatenate, pitch, or sequence them together. Because the system physically queried and retrieved your stem to build the output, it can log that transaction and attribute it to you according to a RAG system approach, which doubt they're doing that. Again, we don't know because they're not clear about what they're doing. Embedding proximity vector matching. It says the system can take the final AI generated loop. Let's say the system can take the final AI generated loop, turn it into a mathematical vector and embedding, and run a similarity search against the database of the original training data. If the outputs vector is high percentage matched to the geometry of your original chord progression, the system triggers an attribution tag. But then my question becomes, who owns the chord? Like, what are we getting down to ultimately? So they just need to be a little more clear about how this works, because we're not just talking about Lemonade. We're talking about generating songs, not just MIDI. Now they said AI tools, so this could be anything. But let me know if you guys find this interesting, or again, if you find it fishy, put a fish emoji. If you find it useful, put a wrench emoji. All right, guys, I'll stop yapping. It's Game from BusyWorksBeats.com. Peace out, guys.